The department determined that on these type projects that it was a better, more cost efficient for us to do these type of projects versus contracting them out or bidding them out.
Welcome to Insider, the official podcast for the City of Murfreesboro. I'm Mike Browning. Our topic, Highland Avenue water and sewer upgrades. Our guests are Assistant City Manager Darren Gore, who also serves as the Director of the city's Water Resources Department, and also Micky Williams, foreman of the heavy construction for the department. Thanks a lot for being with us for this podcast.
Sure thing.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.
The major purpose of the podcast today is to make residents in this construction area aware of how it will impact their homes, impact traffic, so that we can at least make them aware and know, what's going to be happening in that area. And I assume that, first of all, you want to notify them, and you've been notifying them.
Right. So just to give a little background on the Water Resources Department heavy construction crew, I think probably almost 20 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than 20 years, the department determined that on these type projects that it was a better, more cost efficient for us to do these type of projects versus contracting them out or bidding them out. So the department, prior to my time, it was with Joe Kirchner as director and Terry Taylor as the operations superintendent. They determined to go out and invest in the proper equipment, the heavy construction equipment, and then put together the crew that would go do these type of projects. And so we do operate that type of crew around town when we identify projects that really they're big projects. They're not, but they're not big enough to really solicit a large contractor in the area. And so
Micky, what is this project that you're going to be starting on Monday, August 24th?
It's going to be replacing, the first section there will be replacing the water line. It'll be a upgrade from a 4-inch, the old main, to an 8-inch new line.
And why do you want to do that? Why do you need to go from a 4-inch to an 8-inch?
Well, main thing is probably fire protection. We can get fire protection to every block there is the main reason. And the 4-inch was probably put in the late 40s, early 50s, so it's time for it to be changed.
So Darren, I guess if it's fire protection, which is the major reason, then you coordinate with the fire department and they reach out to you and say, hey, this will really help our efficiency.
Right, correct. We have 4-inch lines are substandard to deliver fire flows typically across the city. So whenever we have older 4-inch lines, our new standard is 8-inch diameter minimum. So we do try to go in and replace those 4-inch mains. That just gives you a greater hydraulic capacity, more flow to fight fires.
So when you do this, when you remove a line and then replace a line, obviously you have to disrupt the ground and some of the area. I guess, do you tap into their line so that you don't have to go through their yard, or how does that work, Micky?
We'll actually have to dig in their yard to replace. We'll actually install a new setter, new meter, everything. It'll be a whole new setup. It'll be, we'll actually cut through the yard, sidewalk, whatever we have to do to get over there to that meter and replace it. New box, new everything.
And streets will be closed as well?
Yes.
And how does that work?
They'll be closed from like 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., Monday through Friday. That's to get school buses in, make sure the kids are, gone before we get there. And I think we'll have the roads open on the weekends too.
So the residents still have access to their homes?
Yes, they can come and go. If a car was, let's say, somebody had to leave at 10 o'clock in the morning and we're digging right in front of their driveway, we have steel plates. I can get them in and out. We can backfill it with gravel, whatever we need to do to get them out of their driveway.
And how long will their water services be shut off?
Shouldn't be more than maybe an hour, just to change it out. After we get the line laid, we'll come back and change the service, and that's when they'll lose service to the house there.
So Darren, this is not the first time you've gone through this process in other neighborhoods. So what is it usually like, either notifying neighborhoods or relating with them about this kind of change?
Well, I'll be honest, the crew and the superintendent and Micky in particular do a great job. So I rarely get any, I guess, complaints or people upset about it. I think when you tell people, hey, this is to upgrade their water lines, newer lines, repair leaky sewer lines, that they understand that aging infrastructure happens and that there's a need for replacing stuff, especially if it was installed back in the 40s.
Now, we mentioned this already. I think you said something about parking in the driveway, but what about the street itself? I mean, how many people in this area that you know of park in the street, and will they be able to do that, or do they have to keep their cars in the driveway?
If they're parking at night, I don't really see a problem with it, but I know the first couple blocks are gonna be really tight anyway. I don't think they park on the streets through them first couple blocks. But if they are, well, we'll obviously have to get them moved. We'll have to wake somebody up at early in the morning that don't normally get up. But yeah, while we're working, I'd rather them not park in the street.
I was going to say, yeah, parking in the street and in a construction zone, if it's an absolute necessity through the night, but preferably that we would advise and prohibit them from parking on the street while we're actively constructing the new utilities.
And the streets are going to be closed, but that's to through traffic. So when you close them, and you're doing it in a rolling fashion, I understand? Mm-hmm. So how will that work?
So like if this is a lady in the middle of the block needs to go to the grocery store in the middle of the day, I can get her out. She's not going to be trapped in there. I'm going to get her out. And if she needs to take the kids to school and she don't get back to 8:30, I'm going to get her back in her driveway because there's really nowhere to park up there other than their driveways. So we can get them in and out with steel plates or however fashion we need to make it work.
Projects like this always cause either dust or mud, depending on what the situation may be. So that's probably one of the things that people become concerned about or express maybe a little bit of angst over. Mm-hmm. What can you do, or how do you deal with that?
Hopefully we get a lot of rain. We're going to do this a block at a time, so that's going to help out with the dust. We're actually going to lay that first block, change the services, probably pave the road back, and then we'll do the yard work. So we're going to kind of clean up as we go along. So we're not, 4 or 5 blocks down the road, and I've got 4 blocks of dusty roads and no rain.
And we do have the ability to put water down. I mean, if it gets too hot and too dry, and we can create some more. We can not rely necessarily on the rain, but we can go hose. We can go spray it down with water to keep that dust down too.
Well, while we're on that topic, you had discussed that you come through the actual yard of the residence. To what extent do you recover that? Like you pull the dirt up, do you reseed, or is it such a small line that you don't have to do that?
No, we'll actually have to reseed. And being that's going back to that first block, if we don't have rain, it's hard for that yard to settle out. So that's the only time we may get caught going back is to maybe go back and do some yard work between block to block. That way, if it doesn't rain, let's say we get a month of no rain, it's hard for that yard to settle without getting water on it. We're not going to leave a mess, but it may not be perfect when we leave, but it will be perfect once we get some rain and it all settles out.
And that's part of the conversation you have to have with them, right?
Yeah, the property restoration, honestly, is one of the toughest things that's probably where I do get the most complaints that get to my level is when someone's, and I'm talking about on larger construction projects, getting the line in, getting services back online is great. Property restoration can actually last, I mean, depending on weather, right? If you have trench settlement, or if it rains too much, it doesn't rain enough, and you have to go back and reseed, and maybe certain people are very particular. They may demand to have sod on the ground, which we don't typically do that. So the property restoration is part of kind of an unknown time element. But I don't think we're just going through and getting to the meter So we're just kind of creating I don't know, Mickey, what size swath do we usually take when we put in a certain new
2
service?
foot, it's a 2 foot bucket.
It's just a 2-foot bucket, and so you're really just creating a little finger of disruption between the sidewalk and maybe their meter service. So it's only maybe 7 or 8 feet long by 2 foot wide. It's really not that big of an area.
And specific locations where you're working as you roll through, it'll be like a 3-week to 4-week process. So it's not like everyone's affected all at once. And then when you complete the entire project, that's the span, that's longer, that may be 3 or 4 months. So you might explain the difference between specific areas in the whole project.
Yeah, so we call it a rolling closure because the crew is working block to block to block. So if we're saying that each block is going to take between maybe 3 and 4 weeks, again, weather dependent. And then, so if you take 6 blocks at 4 weeks a block, that's where we're getting into that 6-month time frame, or it could be 3 to 4. I think we said somewhere in the February, March of 21. So you just take the number of blocks that we have to close in the 3 to 4 weeks per block, and that's kind of the time frame. I think we're looking at 6 or 7 blocks.
Yeah, I think it was 6. Well,
Right.
plus sewer.
So will they see a marked difference in their water pressure, or will it be about the same when you're finished?
I'm going to say it's going to be the same. Again, the 4-inch is delivering plenty of domestic water supply to these residents. The real upgrade is going to be for the fire protection, for the fire hydrants. But no, they'll see the same pressure and pretty much see their internal usage won't vary very much. Won't vary at all, I would think.
We discussed the property, but what about sidewalks? How will they be impacted and restored?
I'll answer that, and this is just something I went and talked with Chris Griffith last week, and we are talking about how do we coordinate with streets if they want to come back and do new curb and gutter or new sidewalks. Obviously, if we go through a sidewalk, we're just going to make a patch. And at a certain point, we may be looking at coming back and relaying new sidewalks, depending on the city's budget, and can that type of improvement come in after the fact. So we do coordinate with our street department and our city engineer, and if we have an opportunity while we're in there kind of messing things up or messing up the roadway, we may use that as an opportunity to actually improve or enhance or upgrade curb and gutter and sidewalks.
So finally, we should probably discuss roughly what this project cost. I guess we could talk about the cost putting in the lines, and then there might be a supplemental cost to restoring the sidewalks and the curbs.
I don't know if we've gotten bids for the full cost of materials. I can say we put in our budget annually somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 for water and $500,000 for sewer that we set aside for these type projects for our construction crew to go out and we can obviously, since it's internal labor, we don't necessarily we've got a kind of a fixed labor cost that we pay for whether we're doing these type of improvements or not. The materials, we bid those out. Those are relatively inexpensive, and the patching and so forth. So it's going to stay within that $1 million budget that we set. And if it doesn't, then I'll be notified, and we'll have to ask for going into our reserve account.
As we close, are you prepared to say, like, you have an idea of the next area that you think, well, we really need to work on that area as well? It's probably around downtown because of the lines. Do you think that far ahead, like we need to go here, or is it?
That's probably, yeah, I think we do think that far ahead, but it's not me. I think Valerie's probably the one, or maybe Mickey.
I think the next job I've got is, I know, College Heights. I think it's College Heights over by MTSU.
So there is a process in which you're constantly thinking about where you need to go from where you are. Okay.
And again, we're constantly looking. We coordinate with the streets department each year, and we see what their repaving list is. And so sometimes, if they have certain streets that they expect to repave this upcoming year, we obviously don't want an old set of utilities underneath a road that's going to be repaved. So if we see that paving list, sometimes we will move a project into an area that we hadn't maybe planned on, so that we'll get in our new utilities, so that they won't pave over an old set of utilities, and when we can get in there and make upgrades.
All right, well, thanks to both of you for discussing the Highland Avenue sewer upgrade and water upgrade project. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll end with saying that residents in this affected area can call the Water Resources Department at 615-893-1223, or they can call 615-848-3200 if they have questions or concerns about the project. Director Gore and Foreman Williams have been our guest on this edition of The Insider. Assistant City Manager Darren Gore is also the Director of the Murfreesboro Water Resources Department, and Micky Williams is the foreman of the Highland Avenue project coming up in the next several weeks. For more information on the City of Murfreesboro, visit www.murfreesborotn.gov. You've been listening to The Insider, the official podcast for the City of Murfreesboro. I'm Mike Browning, and thanks for joining us.